Miss Carter, you're here? Sophia's voice trembles, her wedding veil framing a face drained of color as Jasmine steps into the opulent reception, her emerald dress a beacon of power. Jasmine Carter, billionaire CEO of Technova, stands unyielding, her pregnant belly hidden, her gaze piercing. She's the ex-wife Jake discarded for Sophia, his better match, unaware that Sophia works for her. Jake, the groom, falters, his family's smug smiles crumbling. Lena, Jasmine's loyal friend, watches from afar, knowing the storm to come. Ethan, a rival CEO, lingers in her thoughts, a spark of possibility. Jasmine's here to unveil her empire, not to break, but to rise. Share your thoughts, when and where you're reading this in the comments below. Jasmine's fingers trembled as she swiped her phone screen, the glow illuminating her face in the dim kitchen. The faint hum of the fridge was the only sound breaking the silence of the modest suburban house. Her thumb hovered over Jake's latest message, a curt, working late again. Don't wait up. Her chest tightened, a familiar ache that had crept in over months, like a vine strangling her heart. She set the phone down, its clatter against the countertop too loud, too final. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Not Jasmine Carter, the woman who'd clawed her way from a crumbling tenement in Harlem to the helm of Technova, a billion-dollar AI empire. At 32, she was a shadow titan, her name hidden behind shell companies and pseudonyms. To the world, she was just Jasmine, the quiet wife who preferred sweatpants to stilettos. To Jake, her husband of 6 years, she was, what? A fading silhouette? A disappointment? Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind, sharp as ever. Let your success sing softly, baby. The loud ones fall first. Jasmine had lived by that creed, building her empire in silence while Jake chased promotions and sales, oblivious to the fact that her little projects funded their life. She glanced at the modest kitchen, clean, unpretentious, hers. Her fingers grazed the edge of a chipped mug, a relic from her grandmother's house. The roughness grounded her, pulling her back from the edge of doubt. The front door clicked open. Jasmine's pulse quickened, her body tensing as if bracing for a blow. Jake strode in, tie loosened, his cologne sharp and unfamiliar. You're still up? His voice carried an edge, not quite irritation, but close enough to sting. Couldn't sleep, she said, her tone measured, her eyes searching his. They were dark, restless, darting away from her gaze. Long day, he shrugged, tossing his keys onto the counter. Yeah, meetings ran over. You know how it is. But she didn't. Not really. Jake never asked about her work, never probed beyond her vague mentions of consulting. She'd let him assume her late nights were trivial, her victories small. Why? Because she wanted him to love her, not her wealth, because she'd believed he did. You've been talking about Sophia a lot lately, Jasmine said, her voice soft but pointed, like a blade wrapped in silk. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her heart thudding against her ribs. Jake froze, just for a second, before his lips curved into a casual smile. Oh yeah, she's killing it at her firm. Sharp as hell, presenting to CEOs like it's nothing. You should see her. She's got this presence. His eyes lit up, a spark Jasmine hadn't seen in months. Not for her, anyway. Her stomach twisted, a cold knot forming. Presence, she repeated, tasting the word like bitter coffee. Sounds like she's going places. She is, Jake said, loosening his tie further, oblivious to the way her fingers curled into fists. She's got this drive, you know? Always pushing, always polished. It's inspiring. Inspiring. The words sliced through Jasmine, sharper than any insult. She forced a smile, her lips tight, her throat burning. Good for her, she said, turning to rinse the mug in the sink, hiding the tremor in her hands. The water scalded her skin, but she didn't flinch. Pain was easier to bear than the truth clawing at her thoughts. He's slipping away. You could take a page from her book, Jake added, his tone light but cutting. Step up your game, Jazz. You're always, I don't know, stuck in your head. You could be more. More. The word hung in the air, heavy as a verdict. Jasmine's jaw clenched, her reflection distorted in the steel faucet. More than what? More than the woman who'd built Technova from a laptop in a roach-infested apartment? More than the billionaire who could buy Sophia's firm with a single phone call? She wanted to scream it, to shatter his ignorance, but her grandmother's voice held her back. Silence, baby, let it sing. I'll think about it, she said instead, her voice steady, her eyes fixed on the sink. She felt his gaze linger, then heard his footsteps retreat to the bedroom. Alone again, she pressed her palms against the counter, her breath shallow. Her reflection stared back, a woman caught between worlds, powerful, yet invisible. The phone buzzed. Another message from Jake. Forgot to mention, big dinner tomorrow with Sophia's team. You cool on your own? Her fingers hovered, itching to type the truth, to flood his screen with the reality of her empire. Instead, she typed, "Sure, have fun." She set the phone down, her heart a drumbeat of resolve and dread. Something was shifting, a fault line cracking beneath their marriage. She thought of Sophia, this phantom woman who dazzled her husband, who worked unknowingly for her. Jasmine's lips curved, not quite a smile, but something sharper. Jake thought he knew ambition. He thought he knew success. He had no idea what was coming. Jasmine's breath caught as she stared at the ceiling, the bedroom cloaked in darkness, save for the faint glow of streetlights seeping through the blinds. Jake's steady breathing beside her was a cruel metronome. Each exhale a reminder of the distance growing between them. She pressed a hand to her chest, trying to quell the ache that pulsed there, sharp and unyielding. Sleep was a stranger tonight, chased away by the echo of Jake's words. You could be more. Her fingers curled into the sheets, nails biting into her palms. More than what? More than the woman who'd turned code into an empire. She slipped out of bed, bare feet cold against the hardwood, and padded to the kitchen. The chipped mug sat on the counter, a silent witness to last night's wound. She filled it with water, the faucet's hiss drowning out the thoughts clawing at her mind. Jake's admiration for Sophia, her polish, her drive, felt like a betrayal, not of fidelity, but of something deeper. He didn't see her, not the Jasmine who'd coded until dawn in a Harlem tenement, fueled by instant noodles and defiance. Not the Jasmine who owned Technova, the company Sophia unknowingly served. Her phone buzzed, a notification from her assistant. Board meeting rescheduled. New startup acquisition docs ready for review. Jasmine's lips twitched, a ghost of pride flickering through the haze of hurt. She was closing a deal to buy a cutting-edge AI firm, a move that would cement Technova's dominance. But Jake? He'd never asked about her late nights, her hushed calls, her little projects. She'd let him believe they were nothing, shielding him from her billions. Why? Because she'd wanted love, not awe. Because she'd believed he'd stay. The front door clicked shut, startling her. Jake was already leaving, his briefcase in hand, his new cologne trailing like a taunt. "Early start," he called, not meeting her eyes. "Sophia's pitching to some bigwigs today. I'm tagging along to network." Jasmine's throat tightened. "Sounds exciting," she said, her voice a careful mask. She leaned against the counter, the mug warm in her hands, grounding her. "Tell me about her, Sophia. What's so special?" Jake paused, his hand on the doorknob, a spark lighting his eyes. "She's different, confident, always dressed like she's running the room. Her AI pitches, flawless. She's going places, Jazz." He hesitated, then added, "You'd like her. Maybe you two could talk shop sometime." The suggestion stung, a jab at her supposed mediocrity. Her fingers tightened around the mug, the heat searing her skin. "Maybe," she said, her smile brittle, her heart a storm. She watched him leave, the doors slam, echoing in her chest. Alone, she sank into a chair, her breath shallow, her mind racing. Sophia. Always Sophia. The woman who dazzled Jake, who worked for her company, who was stealing her husband's gaze. A wave of nausea hit, sudden and sharp. Jasmine pressed a hand to her stomach, her pulse skittering. She'd been feeling off for weeks, exhaustion, queasiness, but she'd blamed stress, the weight of her empire. the strain of Jake's distance. Now doubt gnawed at her. Could it be? She shook her head, shoving the thought aside. No time for weakness. She opened her laptop, the screen's glow harsh against her eyes. Emails from Technova's board flooded her inbox, each one a reminder of her power. She was Jasmine Carter, the shadow queen of AI, worth billions. Yet Jake's words clawed at her. Step up your game. Her jaw clenched, teeth grinding. He thought her ambition lacking, her drive invisible. He thought Sophia was the star. Jake blinked, surprised by her calm, but he didn't argue. He turned, heading for the bedroom, his footsteps heavy. Jasmine stood frozen, her breath shallow, her mind a storm. She could tell him now, about Technova, about the billions, about the baby. She could shatter his world as he'd shattered hers. But she didn't. Not yet. Silence was her weapon, and she'd wield it when the time was right. She sank onto the couch, her hands trembling as she pressed them to her face. The house felt too big, too empty, the life they'd built crumbling in real time. She heard Jake moving, the zip of a suitcase, the clink of hangers. Each sound was a nail in the coffin of their marriage. Her fingers found her phone, her thumb scrolling to a photo of them. Last year, laughing at a street fair, her head on his shoulder. She deleted it, her chest tightening as the image vanished. The front door opened again. Jake stood there, suitcase in hand, his face a mix of guilt and resolve. "I'm sorry, Jazz," he said, his voice breaking. "I hope you find what you're looking for." She didn't look at him. "You too," she whispered, her voice steady, her heart fracturing. The door closed, and the silence swallowed her whole. She pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling the faint flutter of life. "Just you and me now," she murmured, her voice cracking for the first time. Jake thought he'd traded up, chasing Sophia's shine. He had no idea he'd left a billionaire for her employee. No idea the empire he'd dismissed was hers. Jasmine's lips curved. Not a smile, but something fiercer. The fuse Jake had lit was burning brighter, and she wouldn't let it fizzle out. Jasmine's fingers curled around the edge of her desk, the polished wood cool against her skin, grounding her as the world spun. The Technova office, her sanctuary, hummed with the quiet efficiency of her empire. Servers whirring, screens flickering with code, her legacy alive in every bite. But her heart pounded, a traitor, reminding her of the emptiness Jake had left behind. 3 weeks since he'd walked out, his suitcase was a final punctuation mark on their life together. 3 weeks since she'd learned of the life growing inside her, a secret she guarded like a flame in a storm. She leaned back in her chair, her breath shallow, one hand resting instinctively on her stomach. The nausea had eased, but the weight of her new reality pressed harder. She was alone, truly alone, except for the child she'd raised without him. Her lips twitched, a bitter half-smile. Jake thought her ambition was a flicker, a candle to Sophia's blaze. If only he knew the inferno she'd built. Her phone buzzed, a message from her best friend Lena. "You okay, Jay? Haven't heard from you." Jasmine's thumb hovered, her chest tightening. She'd told Lena about the pregnancy, whispering it over coffee in a diner, her voice breaking as she admitted Jake was gone. Lena had cursed him, called him blind, but Jasmine had stopped her. "He made his choice," she said, her voice steady, her eyes burning. She typed back, "Surviving. Work's keeping me sane." It wasn't a lie. Technova was her lifeline, its demands drowning out the ache. She opened her laptop, diving into acquisition reports. A new AI startup, NeuralCore, was hers for the taking, a $200 million deal that would solidify her dominance. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, drafting terms, her mind sharp despite the fatigue tugging at her edges. This was her element, where she was untouchable. Not the stuck woman Jake had dismissed, but Jasmine Carter, the shadow queen who moved markets with a keystroke. A knock at the door jolted her. "Ms. Carter?" Her assistant Priya stepped in, holding a tablet. "Quarterly reports for the subsidiaries. And something else." Priya's eyes flickered with curiosity as she handed over a folder. "Sophia Grant's promotion application? From NovaCore. She's pushing for lead AI strategist." Jasmine's pulse spiked, her breath catching. Sophia, The name was a blade, slicing through her calm. She took the folder, her fingers steady despite the storm in her chest. "Thank you, Priya," she said, her voice smooth, betraying nothing. Alone again, she opened the file, Sophia's resume staring back. Impressive, polished, every line screaming ambition. Jasmine's lips curled, not a smile but a predator's grin. Sophia, Jake's shining star, was her employee, begging for a step up in her empire. She leaned back, her hand brushing her stomach, the faint curve a reminder of her stakes. She hadn't told anyone else about the baby, not even her board. The world saw Jasmine Carter, CEO, not Jasmine, the soon-to-be mother. But the duality strengthened her, a secret power Jake could never touch. She closed the folder, her mind racing. Sophia's application was a chess move, and Jasmine held the board. Her phone lit up again, this time with a notification from Instagram. Jake's account, public now, flaunted a new photo. Him and Sophia at a rooftop bar, his arm around her smile dazzling. The caption, "Chasing dreams with my dream girl." Jasmine's throat burned, her fingers trembling as she scrolled. Comments from Jake's family, his mother who'd called Jasmine unrefined, his sister who'd sneered at her roots, poured in with hearts and praise. "Perfect couple. So happy for you." Her vision blurred, not with tears but with rage, hot and molten. She slammed the phone down, the sound sharp in the quiet office. They thought they'd won, that Jake had traded up, that she was the failure left behind. Her jaw clenched, teeth grinding. They didn't know. None of them did. She stood pacing, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The city skyline glittered beyond the window, a testament to her power. She'd built this. Tech Nova, the acquisitions, the billions, from nothing. From a girl in Harlem with a borrowed laptop and a dream. Jake had seen only the surface, the sweatshirts, the quiet dinners. He'd never asked, never looked deeper, and now he paraded Sophia, his upgrade, while Jasmine carried his child and his ignorance. Another wave of nausea hit, softer this time, but enough to make her pause. She pressed a hand to her stomach, whispering, "We're enough." The words were a vow, a shield. She wouldn't break. Not for Jake, not for anyone. She sat back down, pulling Sophia's file closer. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the details. Sophia was good, damn good, but she was a cog in Jasmine's machine. And Jake? He was a fool who'd bet against a queen. Her phone buzzed again. "Lena, you don't have to do this alone." Jasmine's lips softened, a flicker of warmth breaking through. She typed back, "I know, but I'm not alone." She patted her stomach, feeling the strength there, the future. Jake thought he'd left her behind. Sophia thought she was climbing the ladder. They were both wrong. The fuse was burning brighter, and Jasmine was ready to light the fire. Jasmine's fingers hovered over the cream-colored envelope, its elegant script mocking her from the desk. To the CEO of Technova. Her breath hitched, a sharp sting in her chest. The wedding invitation, Jake and Sophia's, lay there like a grenade sent by mistake to her corporate office. Her hand rested on her stomach, the gentle curve of 7 months hidden beneath a loose silk blouse. The baby kicked, a tiny rebellion, as if urging her to act. She smirked, bitter and fierce. Fate had a cruel sense of humor. She slit the envelope open, the paper tearing with a satisfying rip. The details spilled out. A lavish venue, a date 2 weeks away, a celebration of Jake's upgrade. Her jaw tightened, teeth grinding. Sophia had used Technova's connections to secure the location. Her own company, her own power, wielded unknowingly by the woman who'd stolen her husband. Jasmine's laugh was low, sharp, a sound that cut through the office's silence. They had no idea. Her phone buzzed. Lena again. "You don't need to prove anything, Jay. Let them rot." Jasmine's lips twitched, but her resolve hardened. She wasn't going to the wedding to beg or break. She was going to close the book on Jake, to let the truth burn through his illusions. Her fingers brushed the invitation, tracing the embossed letters. This was her moment, her stage. She stood, pacing the office, her heels clicking against the marble. The city skyline loomed beyond the glass, a glittering reminder of her empire. She was Jasmine Carter, billionaire, shadow queen of AI. Yet her heart raced, a traitor, pounding with the weight of what lay ahead. She stopped, pressing a hand to her stomach, feeling another kick. "We'll do this together," she whispered, her voice steady, her eyes fierce. The memory of last week's conference flashed. Ethan, the sharp-eyed CEO of a rival AI firm, his smile warm, his questions probing. "You're a force, Ms. Carter," he'd said, his gaze lingering, seeing her in a way Jake never had. Her cheeks had warmed, a spark she hadn't expected. She'd brushed it off, her focus on the baby, on Technova. But Ethan's card sat in her drawer, a possibility she wasn't ready to face. Not yet. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Carter, Sophia Grant's leave request just came through. For the wedding. Needs your approval." Jasmine's pulse spiked, her fingers tightening around the invitation. Sophia, bold as ever, asked her for time off to marry her husband. The audacity was almost admirable. She pressed the intercom. "Hold it for now, Priya. I'll review it Monday." She sank into her chair, the invitation still in hand. Her mind churned, piecing together the irony. Sophia worked for Novacore, a Tech Nova subsidiary, her every achievement feeding Jasmine's empire. Jake thought he'd traded up, chasing Sophia's shine, oblivious to the woman who'd built the stage they danced on. Her lips curled, a predator's grin. She could approve the leave, let them bask in their delusion. Or she could go, show them the truth, and watch it unravel. Another kick, stronger this time, pulled her back. She pressed both hands to her stomach, her breath catching. The baby was her anchor, her reason. She kept the pregnancy hidden, even from her board, her loose blouses a shield. But the truth was growing, undeniable, just like her resolve. She wouldn't let Jake's betrayal define her. She'd define herself. She opened her laptop, pulling up Sophia's file. The promotion application glowed on the screen. Lead AI strategist, a bold move. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. Sophia was good, no question, but she was a pawn in Jasmine's game. Approving the promotion could be a gift or a trap. She closed the laptop, her decision unmade, her mind shifting to the wedding. "I'm going," she said aloud, her voice firm. The words a vow, not to ruin their day, but to reclaim hers. She'd walk into that venue, head high, her empire invisible but undeniable. She'd let Jake see what he'd thrown away, let Sophia see the woman who signed her paychecks. Her heart thudded, a mix of dread and fire. She wasn't the girl Jake had dismissed. She was a billionaire, a mother-to-be, a force. Her phone buzzed again, a news alert. Technova rumored to acquire Neuralcore in $200 million deal. She smiled, a real one this time, her fingers brushing the invitation. The world was hers and Jake was about to learn how small his was. She stood, her reflection in the window fierce, dark eyes blazing, jaw set. The baby kicked again, a silent cheer. She grabbed her coat, her steps purposeful. She'd call her stylist tomorrow, arrange the car, prepare for war. Not with tears or screams, but with the quiet power she'd always wielded. Jake thought he'd left her behind. Sophia thought she was climbing. They were both wrong, and the wedding would be their reckoning. The fuse was nearly spent, and Jasmine was ready to ignite. Jasmine's reflection stared back from the full-length mirror, her silhouette sharp in a tailored emerald dress that hugged her frame, masking the 7-month swell of her belly. The fabric shimmered, a nod to her power, her roots, a black woman who'd risen from nothing to everything. Her fingers brushed the emerald pendant at her throat, a gift from her grandmother, its weight a reminder. Silence sings, baby. Today she'd let it roar. She turned away, her heels clicking on the hardwood of her office. The city skyline glittered beyond the window, a battlefield she'd conquered. Her heart thudded, not with fear but with purpose, a fire stoked by months of betrayal. The wedding was tomorrow, Jake and Sophia's grand stage, built on her empire's dime. Her lips curled, sharp and bitter. They'd invited the CEO of Technova, oblivious that it was her, the wife Jake had discarded. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Priya's email. Sophia Grant's leave request is still pending. Reminder, her promotion application awaits your review. Jasmine's pulse spiked, her fingers twitching. Sophia, bold enough to ask for a break to marry her ex-husband, bold enough to seek a higher rung in her company. The irony was a blade, and Jasmine held its hilt. She sank into her chair, the leather creaking, and opened Sophia's file. The woman's credentials gleamed. MIT grad, AI patents, a rising star. Jasmine's jaw tightened. Sophia was good, but she was a spark in the inferno of Technova, a machine Jasmine had built from code and grit. Approving the leave, the promotion could be a gesture of grace or a trap to tighten the noose. She closed the file, her decision a shadow unformed but heavy. Her mind flicked to the wedding. She'd planned every detail. The dress, the car, a sleek Bentley to announce her arrival. The stylist who'd sculpted her into a vision of power. She wasn't going to scream or beg. She'd walk in, head high, and let the truth do the breaking. Her hand grazed her stomach, the baby's kick a jolt of strength. "You're my courage," she whispered, her voice soft, her eyes fierce. The memory of Ethan surfaced, unbidden, his warm smile at the conference, his card still tucked in her drawer. "You're unstoppable, Ms. Carter," he'd said, his gaze piercing, seeing her in a way Jake never had. Her cheeks warmed, a flicker of something dangerous. She pushed it down. Not now. Her focus was the wedding, the reckoning, the baby. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford. She stood pacing, her heels a steady rhythm against the marble. The office was her war room, its walls lined with awards Jake had never noticed. She stopped at a photo, her grandmother, eyes fierce, hands calloused from years of scrubbing floors. "You built this, baby." Jasmine's throat tightened, her fingers clenching. She'd built Technova from a Harlem tenement, from Knight's coding until her eyes burned. Jake had seen only her sweatshirts, her quiet dinners, never the empire behind her silence. Her phone buzzed again. "Lena. You sure about this, Jay? You don't owe them anything." Jasmine's lips softened, a ghost of a smile. Lena was her anchor, the one who'd held her hand through the pregnancy news, through Jake's betrayal. She typed back, "I owe myself this." She set the phone down, her resolve ironclad. She wasn't going to the wedding for them. She was going for her, for the girl who'd clawed her way up, for the mother she'd become. She called her stylist, voice crisp. "The dress is perfect. Shoes, hair, everything. Make it unforgettable." The stylist laughed, promising a look that would stop hearts. Jasmine hung up, her pulse racing, a mix of dread and thrill. She arranged the Bentley. Its driver was instructed to arrive at the venue with precision. Every move was calculated, a chess game she'd already won. Her hand found her stomach again. The baby's kick stronger now. A silent vow. "We're doing this," she murmured, her voice steady, her heart a drumbeat. She imagined Jake's face tomorrow, the moment he'd see her. Not the stuck wife he'd left, but Jasmine Carter, billionaire, queen, mother. Sophia would falter, her polish cracking under the weight of truth. And Jake's family, who'd sneered at her roots, would choke on their own words. She sat, pulling out Ethan's card, her fingers tracing his name. A possibility, a spark, but not today. Today was for her. She tucked the card away, her eyes on the invitation. The fuse was burning out, and tomorrow she'd light the flame. Jasmine stepped to the window, the city at her feet. Her reflection stared back, fierce, unbroken, ready. The wedding wasn't their triumph, it was her stage, and she'd steal the show. Jasmine's heels clicked against the marble floor of the venue, each step a declaration, her emerald dress catching the chandeliers light like a blade. The wedding was a spectacle, orchids cascading, champagne flutes clinking, a stage built on her empire's unwitting largesse. Her hand grazed her stomach, the baby's kick a pulse of courage hidden beneath the tailored silk. She was 7 months pregnant, a secret weapon, and today she'd wield it. Her heart thudded, not with fear, but with a fire that had smoldered too long. She slipped into a back row, unnoticed, her eyes scanning the crowd. Jake stood at the altar, his smile radiant, his suit crisp, a man who thought he'd won. Sophia glided down the aisle, a vision in white, her confidence a polished veneer. Jasmine's lips twitched, sharp and bitter. They were playing their roles, oblivious to the queen in their midst. Her fingers tightened around her clutch, the business card inside a silent promise. Jasmine Carter, CEO, Technova. The ceremony unfolded, vows exchanged, applause rippling. Jasmine's pulse roared, her body taut, waiting. She didn't stand when the officiant asked for objections. Too crude, too small for her. She waited, her silence a coiled spring, until the reception began. Guests mingled, laughter bubbling, and Jasmine rose, her movements deliberate, a predator in emerald. She approached Sophia, who stood with Novacore colleagues, her laugh bright, her diamond earrings glinting. The group froze as Jasmine neared, recognition dawning. "Ms. Carter," one stammered, a junior analyst, his glass trembling. Sophia turned, her smile faltering, her eyes narrowing. I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Jasmine's smile was a blade, slow and sharp. "Not personally," she said, her voice velvet over steel. "I'm Jasmine Carter, CEO of Technova. Your boss." She paused, letting the words sink in, watching Sophia's face drain of color. The crowd around them hushed, sensing the shift. Jake appeared, drawn by the murmur, his grin fading as he saw her. "Jazz?" His voice cracked, confusion twisting his features. "What are you doing here?" She turned to him, her gaze unwavering, her heart a furnace. "Congratulations, Jake," she said, loud enough for the circle to hear. "Beautiful wedding, funded, I believe, through Technova's connections?" Her eyes flicked to Sophia. "Your bride's quite resourceful." Sophia's hand clutched her flute, knuckles white. "Ms. Carter, I don't understand. How do you know Jake?" Jasmine's laugh was low, lethal. "Oh, Sophia, Jake is my ex-husband. He left me a year ago for someone more successful." She stepped closer, her voice dropping, each word a dart. "Someone who, it turns out, works for me." The air stilled, gasps rippling through the crowd. Jake's face reddened, his mouth opening, closing, like a fish gasping for water. His family, clustered nearby, froze. His mother's lips parted, his sister's eyes wide with dawning horror. Jasmine pressed on, her voice steady, her eyes burning. "You said I wasn't ambitious enough, Jake, that my projects were going nowhere. Funny thing is, Sophia's climbing the ladder at my company, and I'm worth $3 billion. Sophia's glass slipped, shattering on the floor. The sound was a gunshot, silencing the whispers. $3 billion, she stammered, her polish crumbling. You own Technova?" Jasmine handed her the business card, her smile cold. "Among other things, I believe you applied for lead strategist position, Sophia, and a leave of absence for this wedding. Both are on my desk." She turned to Jake, whose face was a mask of shock, sweat beating at his temples. "You thought you traded up, honey. You traded a billionaire for her employee." His mother gasped, a hand clutching her pearls, her disdain for Jasmine's unrefined roots now a bitter irony. His father stared, mouth agape, the man who'd once called her not good enough, now speechless. Jasmine's heart pounded, not with pain but with triumph, her body alive with it. "I'm pregnant," she said suddenly, her voice clear, cutting through the stunned silence. "Your child, Jake. 7 months. You didn't know, did you?" She let the words hang, watching his knees buckle, his eyes wild with panic. "I didn't come to ruin your day. I came to set the record straight." Sophia's voice trembled. "Ms. Carter, I had no idea." "Jake never—" "Of course he didn't," Jasmine interrupted, her tone kind but unyielding. "He was too ashamed of his unsuccessful wife to mention me by name." She stepped back, her gaze sweeping the crowd, their whispers a chorus now. "Enjoy your wedding." She turned, her heels clicking, her head high. Jake called after her, "Jazz, wait!" But she didn't stop. The baby kicked, a fierce reminder of her strength. She'd said her piece, lit the fuse, and watched it burn. The exit loomed, freedom beyond it, and Jasmine walked toward it, unbroken, unstoppable, a queen reclaiming her crown. Jasmine's breath came in soft, measured waves, her hands resting on the swell of her belly as she sat in the hospital room. The monitor's steady beat mirrored her pulse. a rhythm of life, hers and the baby's. 8 months pregnant, she was a fortress, her body a vessel of strength, her heart a battlefield scarred, but unbowed. The sterile air carried a faint antiseptic sting, grounding her in the moment. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the empire she'd built and the war she'd won at Jake's wedding. Her lips curved, not a smile, but a quiet triumph, sharp as a blade. She leaned back against the pillows, her fingers tracing the pendant at her throat. Her grandmother's, a talisman of resilience. Silence sings, baby. It had sung at the wedding, a crescendo of truth that left Jake reeling, Sophia shattered, and their guests whispering. She'd walked away, head high, leaving their world in chaos. Now waiting for her daughter's arrival, she felt the weight of that victory, heavy but liberating. Her phone buzzed on the bedside table, a flood of messages from wedding guests. Shock, apologies, curiosity. She ignored them, her eyes fixed on the window, the skyline a map of her conquests. Jake had tried to call, leaving voicemails that cracked with guilt, begging to see her, to know their child. Jazz, I didn't know, he'd stammered in one, his voice raw. Please, let me make this right. Her jaw tightened, teeth grinding. He'd made his choice, chasing Sophia's shine, blind to the queen he'd left. Some bridges once burned were ash forever. She'd sent Sophia's transfer papers that morning. Lead strategist, yes, but to Technova's Seattle office. A promotion laced with exile. A calculated move, not vengeance, but justice, delivered with the cold precision of her empire. Sophia's emails, polite and panicked, sat unanswered in her inbox. Jasmine's focus was here now, with the life kicking inside her, a future she'd shape alone. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. Lena slipped in, her eyes soft, her arms carrying a bouquet of sunflowers. You're glowing, Jay, she said, setting the flowers down, her voice warm but searching. How are you holding up? Jasmine's lips softened, a flicker of vulnerability. Like I'm carrying the world, she said, her hand on her belly. The baby's kick, a silent cheer. But I'm ready. Lena sat beside her, squeezing her hand, and for a moment, Jasmine let the weight slip, let herself be seen, not the billionaire, not the CEO, but the woman, the mother-to-be. You didn't have to go to that wedding, Lena said, her tone gentle but firm. You didn't owe them anything. I owed myself, Jasmine replied, her voice low, fierce. I needed to stand there to let them see me. Not the stuck wife, but the woman who built an empire from nothing. Her eyes burned, not with tears but with fire. Jake thought he traded up. He needed to know he threw away a queen for a pawn. Lena laughed, sharp and proud. You're a damn force, Jay. She paused, her gaze softening. What about Ethan? That CEO who keeps texting you? Jasmine's breath caught, her fingers tightening on the pendant. Ethan's messages had been steady since the conference. Professional, then warmer, his words carrying a spark she wasn't ready to name. He sees you, he'd written last week, after a call about Neuralcore's acquisition. Her cheeks warmed, a dangerous flutter in her chest. He's a possibility, she admitted, her voice careful. But not now. This, she patted her belly, this is my focus. The monitor beeped, steady, a reminder of time. The baby was coming soon, and with her, a new chapter. Jasmine's mind flashed to Jake's face at the wedding. Red, broken, realizing he'd bet against a titan. To Sophia's shattered composure, her career is now tethered to Jasmine's will. To his family, their sneers were silenced by her billions. She'd won, not by shouting, but by standing in her truth. A nurse poked her head in. Everything's on track, Ms. Carter. Rest up. Jasmine nodded, her eyes drifting back to the skyline. She whispered to her belly, I'll teach you, little one. Success isn't flash or fame. It's the fire inside, the kind no one can take. Her voice cracked, soft but fierce, a vow etched in her bones. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan this time. Heard you're in the hospital. Thinking of you? Her heart skipped, a spark she tucked away. She wasn't ready, but the possibility lingered, a seed for another day. For now she was enough. Mother, queen, empire. Jake had chased a trophy, but Jasmine had built a legacy. The baby kicked, fierce and sure, and Jasmine's lips curved, a true smile this time. The fuse had burned out, and in its ashes, she was reborn. In the quiet of the hospital, Jasmine Carter awaits her daughter's arrival, a billionaire forged from Harlem's ashes, her heart a tapestry of scars and strength. Jake's betrayal, Sophia's ambition, mere sparks against her inferno. She exposed their illusions, not with vengeance, but with truth, reclaiming her crown at their wedding. Now, with her empire thriving and a new life stirring within, Jasmine stands unshaken. The world may underestimate her, but she knows her worth. As the city pulses beyond, she whispers to her unborn child, "We build empires, not trophies. The future is hers, fierce and boundless."